Alright, before we get into today's deep dive, a critical disclaimer to our audience. The following video covers a highly sensitive ongoing legal case involving allegations of capital murder, sexual assault, and the exploitation and dismemberment of a minor. Due to the graphic nature of the evidence and public court filings discussed, viewers' discretion is strongly advised. Furthermore, under the United States law, the defendant, David Anthony Burke, is presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. The analysis presented in this video is compiled from public media reports, preliminary court transcripts, and official law enforcement press releases. Imagine you're scrolling through your favorite streaming app, and you see a rising pop star who seems to have captured the world. Millions of monthly listeners, critical acclaim, a trajectory pointing towards the absolute top of the music industry. And you might think you know them through their lyrics, social media presence, or other public persona. But behind that carefully curated veneer, reality can be profoundly distorted. In late 2025, a discovery was made in Southern California that would shatter the industry and expose a terrifying double life. A Tesla vehicle registered to David Anthony Burke, known globally to music fans by his stage name David D4vd, was searched by law enforcement officers. What they discovered in the trunk was not luggage, clothing, or high-end music gear. It was a scene straight from a nightmare: the dismembered remains of a 14-year-old child.
14-year-old girl's decomposing body was found in the trunk of this famous singer's car while he's out on tour.
For 7 months following that initial horrific discovery, the public was left with an agonizing silence as a complex, multi-jurisdictional investigations unfolded behind closed doors.
Huge question about why it took authorities 7 months to arrest this man. The DNA evidence probably was gone because there was so much deterioration of the body. Plus, the authorities wanted to talk to lots of witnesses. That probably explains the gap.
The victim was formally identified as Celeste Rivas Hernandez, a young girl whose life was violently cut short before it could even begin. Then came the hammer blow from the authorities. The Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office announced that David Burke had been formally being arrested and charged with capital murder and the physical dismemberment of a minor. As the legal machinery began to turn, prosecutors revealed the sheer unprecedented scale of the investigation. A mountain of evidence totaling a staggering 50 terabytes of data. Today, we are going to look past the headlines, conduct a comprehensive, detailed deep dive into the case of California versus David Anthony Burke. We will dissect the chilling timeline, the digital forensics, the online purchases that tiptoed past automated red flags, the internet's theories regarding potential accomplices, and how a high-tier defense team plans to fight a seemingly insurmountable mountain of evidence gathered by the state. When we examine the complex layers of this case, the first element that demands an intense analysis is the 7-month gap between the trunk discovery and the actual arrest. In high-profile homicide cases, especially those involving celebrities, the public expects an immediate arrest. But law enforcement knew that to secure a conviction on capital murder charges, preparation was everything. They needed to trace every move, every transaction, and every digital instance to ensure that there were no holes in the prosecution's narrative. And this brings us to the absolute core of the state's premeditation case, the paper trail. To understand how prosecutors built a capital murder case for 7 long months, we have to look at the meticulous logistical trail left behind in both the physical and the digital world. A central question has emerged from the public enraged by this case. How can someone purchase an entire literal murder kit online without triggering an immediate government watch list or law enforcement intervention? According to public court documents and the preliminary hearings of the Los Angeles County, investigators found transaction history linked to Burke's personal credit cards and financial accounts. And what they found was a calculated, chilling sequence of acquisitions that prosecutors argue points cold hard premeditations. Now, let's break down this inventory with absolute precision. First, Burke purchased a commercial-grade cadaver body bag. Yes, you heard that right. Under normal circumstances, these items are bought by rural veterinarians, licensed hunters, or large-scale livestock farmers. And because of this, there are no law prohibiting private citizens from buying a body bag on a platform like Amazon. Does not automatically place a buyer on a watch list like a government watch list. But when you look at what's purchased alongside it, the picture changes entirely. In addition to the cadaver bag, Burke's digital transaction ledger showed the time purchase of an inflatable pool, 2 high-powered chainsaws, and a large heavy-duty burn cage. The prosecution's narrative regarding this specific combination of items is as systematic as it is gruesome. They argue in court the inflatable pool was not bought for recreation or leisure, but was instead constructed as a forensic containment zone. It was a makeshift, easily disposable basin designed specifically to catch bodily fluids and blood during the act of dismemberment. By doing this within the pool, the perpetrators can prevent DNA trace and fluids from soaking into the floor, carpets, or wall structure of the primary crime scene, making ultimate cleanup incredibly easy and leaving no trail for forensic luminal samples. The 2 high-powered chainsaws were allegedly the requisite tools of destruction. Prosecutors asked that they were used comprehensively to sever the physical remains of 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez, so that individual parts could logistically fit into the confined trunk space of the Tesla. And the large industrial burn cage that was found, it is believed that it was intended for the final step of elimination. A meticulous way to completely destroy the victim's clothing, personal effects, any remaining physical evidence that could forensically link Burke to the act itself. This comprehensive trail forms the absolute bedrock of the prosecution's claims of first-degree capital murder. This was not a sudden escalation. This was not a fatal rage or an incident covered up in panic. This was an engineered sequence of events requiring deliberate logistics, financial planning, and online execution. But as terrifying as the physical paper trail is, it pales in comparison to the forensic revelations locking in the recent hearings. When the news officially broke, the preliminary hearings were formally being delayed. Major media outlets pointed to a singular, monumental reason: a mountain of discovery. The defense and prosecution are currently waiting on established 50 terabytes of evidence. To put 50 terabytes of evidence into perspective, for an investigative deep dive like this, is roughly equivalent to 13,000 high-definition long-form movies, or tens of millions of individual digital documents, messages, and high-resolution photographs. How does a single murder case generate that incomprehensible amount of data? The answer lies entirely in the deeply digitized footprint of a modern pop star and the intense advancement of modern digital forensics. When law enforcement executed search warrants and seized Burke's physical devices, including his multiple smartphones, professional laptops, storage drives, encrypted cloud accounts, and the internal telemetry data of his Tesla computer, they opened a vast Pandora's box, which cannot be closed. According to strategic investigative reports, a massive and highly sensitive portion of this 50 terabyte archive consists of child sexual abuse material, referred to in court as CSAM, discovered entirely on phones and encrypted hard drives belonging directly to the singer. For months, a specialized forensic analyst had to meticulously catalog, sort, and verify this data frame by frame, ensuring every trace is recognized by the upcoming trial. In a district legal context, every single file within that 50 terabytes must be individually processed by the forensics teams to establish an unsaleable chain of custody. Analysts are not looking just at the images themselves. They are extracting the system architecture metadata. This metadata provides the exact translation of the files, timestamps of the download, geolocation tag, camera profile signature, and specific device encryption keys, showing precisely when, where, and how a file was accessed, viewed, or moved across hard drives. But the forensic investigations extend far beyond illicit media. It extends deep into the vehicle itself. Modern electric vehicles, especially the Tesla model owned by Burke, are essentially supercomputers that constantly log comprehensive environmental metrics. This vehicle logs GPS coordinates data every second, having weight distribution sensors that record exactly when weight shifts in sneaky ways, and sensors document documenting exactly when the individual doors of the trunk are opened or closed. By cross-referencing the Tesla's internal logs directly with the cellular tower pings extracted from the phone of Celeste Rivas Hernandez and Burke's own device, the state has successfully mapped out a minute-by-minute architecture of the entire crime line. The data places the vehicle and the devices in the exact same locations at the exact same seconds, showing exactly how the body was transported and the precise moment the trunk was accessed to hide the remains. This digital vault is so incredibly vast that the core system had to grant multiple progressive extensions simply so both legal teams could attempt to reveal the totality of the evidence before a jury ever steps foot into the courtroom. As the physical and forensic evidence began leaking into the public knowledge, the internet radically accelerated its own independent efforts. Online true crime researchers and sleuths began digging intensively into Burke's inner circle, and what they uncovered sent shockwaves to the music industry. Around the exact timing of David Burke's high-profile arrest, two tracks quietly hit platforms worldwide. The titles were shockingly provocative and tone-deaf given the context of the murder charges. An indie track titled Imaginary Love and a second song explicitly labeled sex. However, these compositions were not released under the same stage name as David. They were dropped by a new artist operating under the stage name moniker Karakova. It did not take long for netizens to pull back the hood on Karakova. Behind the name was Caleb Burke, the younger brother of David Burke. The dropping of a provocative track like Sex immediately after an older brother is locked up for capital murder, sexual assault, and dismemberment spawned an immediate forensic war across Reddit, Discord, and crime forums. The internet quickly split into two distinct camps regarding Caleb Burke. On one side, you have the moderates and defenders. They point out that public documents confirm was physically located states away from David when the horrific actions occurred in California. They assert that the younger brother should not have his career destroyed, nor should he be vilified by the monstrous profile of his brother. To them, the music release was a pre-scheduled digital distribution, suffering from tragic timing. But on the cynical side of the internet, Accomplice theories began to explode. True crime researchers openly questioned on public forums whether anyone in David's inner track, family, or managers acted as an accessory. The theory posits a disturbing logistical question. Could the rising pop star execute a complex crime involving an inflatable pool, dual chainsaws, a burnt cage, and transport dismembered remains entirely on his own without any immediate alarm from roommates or associates? While law enforcement has stated explicitly that David Burke is currently the sole individual charged in the murder of Celeste Rivas Hernandez, public scrutiny on everyone around him remains intense. With capital charges officially on the table, David Burke is facing the absolute ultimate penalties the justice system can proffer. The prosecution has an arsenal of forensic proofs, a paper trail, physical remains, and the 50 terabytes of devices. Faced with what looks like an insurmountable open and shut case to the general public, how can a defense team possibly respond? According to ongoing transcripts from the preliminary hearings, the defense is designing a highly aggressive technical counter strategy. Their core argument to the jury will be absolute: David Burke is not the killer. They plan to use the sheer massive volume of state's evidence comprehensively against them. The first pillar of their defense revolves around overlooked digital access. The defense will argue that in the chaotic, fast-paced lifestyle of a touring music artist, multiple producers, friends, entourage members, and associates had constant physical and digital access to Burke's smartphones, laptops, cloud accounts, and the Tesla itself. They attempt to create a reasonable doubt by suggesting a third party utilized the vehicle without Burke's knowledge. The second pillar exploits the CSAM data influx. By emphasizing the enormous, messy volume of data archive, the defense wants to claim the forensic trail is contaminated and impossible to definitely attribute to a single profile. They will attempt to completely decouple the digital evidence from the physical murder. painting Burke as the victim of a frame job. And the third pillar is weaponizing the trial delays themselves, using every free month to systematically search for forensic discrepancy in the Tesla card logs. But the prosecution remains absolutely steadfast, maintaining the forensic trials do not lie. Before we close this investigative file, we need a reality distortion check. In the modern true crime space, cases involving popular celebrities suffer from a severe distortion of forensic fact. On platforms like TikTok and Reddit, parasocial loyalty blurs objective reality. We see fans hunting through David's past lyrics for hitting accidental clues or inventing wild conspiracies, theories about industry setups to romanticize how an artist they stream could do something so heinous. But here's the reality check. Justice is not decided by algorithms or fan allegiance. The court does not care about streaming numbers or forum rumors. The system operates on the cold chassis of forensic metrics, the GPS telemetry of an electric vehicle, the metadata tracks on a seized storage drive, and the physical DNA evidence recovered by the state. The ultimate distortion is forgetting that beneath the headlines, there's a real victim named Celeste, whose voice was permanently silenced. Our job is to separate the noise from the evidence. As the case of California versus David Anthony Burke moves sluggishly towards our formal trial, it serves as a terrifying reminder of the facades of a culture. The digital world allows us rapid fame to blind us from the rot hiding just beneath the surface. David Burke was on the precipice of global stardom. Yet, if the state's mountain of evidence holds true, he was simultaneously a calculated predator who used online convenience to acquire a horrific toolkit for murder. We must never lose sight of the true heart of this tragedy. Celeste Rivas Hernandez, a 14-year-old girl whose entire future was stolen, and a family left to pick up the pieces of a reality shattered by unthinkable violence. We will follow the preliminary hearings as they develop. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And consider subscribing to Reality Distortions for more comprehensive, unfiltered case investigations. Thank you so much for watching and stay safe. This is Reality Distortions.